Hey guys. You know, I tend to find myself do better with like talking about things when I'm already fucking up my words, which is pretty funny. But I tend to find that I do better at like talking about things when I'm sort of in a game or something. It helps me be more candid. This whole video, I'm just gonna be in this little lobby here, and I'm gonna turn the pings down so that way you don't hear a ton of spam this game. Uh, it's TFT. I'm playing Vladimir Noxus reroll comp for literally anyone who cares. I'm gonna turn the pings like all the way down because they're still spamming it on the one guy. But yeah, so you may have noticed that recently on my channel, in sort of August, I was doing a lot of gameplay clips. I posted a lot of gameplay clips, a lot of highlights, a lot of like really sort of not what I normally post ever since I started, the whole hell of a boss like train, right? And there's kind of a reason for that. Recently I found that I had to sort of make a choice about something that I didn't think I would have to make a choice about for a lot longer, if that's a nice way of explaining it. So I ended up sort of stalling, and I ended up just sort of, buying my time. So let me just sort of flash back a bit, right? Let's flash back to about 2 months ago, right? I guess 2.5 months ago. I'm running the Force Positivity channel. I'm doing it, and it's going great. It's going good. It's going so good that I'm having a great time with it, and it's a lot of fun, and it's kind of the most I think I've enjoyed YouTube in a very long time. I've been making videos for a very long time, a very long time. And I sort of made the Forced Positivity channel just as sort of like something as a challenge to myself to just like prove that, hey, I can do this. I can post one video every day for a whole year. I know I have it in me. I'm just not like pushing myself hard enough. And, you know, 6 months into it, it was going great. Then I made a Hell of a Boss video, and suddenly people were fucking watching my channel. I was just kind of doing this whole thing for myself, and then I had a lot of eyes on it, which is, it's a very humbling thing to suddenly have hundreds of thousands of people watching your videos all at once, you know? I definitely think it overwhelmed me for sure. I wasn't ready, if that's, one way to put it, and I think I've been very, very vocal about that. Especially because in like the 6, 7 years I've been making YouTube videos, I've never really had a sort of I've never really had like any people with like interest for watching the videos that I make, right? It's a bunch of people who just kind of tune in because like I was talking about some kind of topic that was like trending, or it was usually I would be talking about something and no one else had like gotten to it yet. So like people were going to talk about it, but no one's actually gotten to it yet. So, no one no one else is like competing in the video market that I'm competing in, right? Like I would be talking about like some kind of breaking news story, but usually in like a gaming community because I'm a little bit of a gamer if you can't tell. So that was going good. It was going great, and then I kind of sort of I don't really know how else to explain this. I got hit with a freight train called reality. So I don't like talking about my personal life so much. It's kind of why I'm playing a game right now to distract me from what I'm about to say. None of this is like regrettable stuff. I just don't like getting personal in like general. But I tend to like to keep things that don't necessarily need to be public, like not public. And I think a lot of people are like that. But specifically when you do like content creation, like if you're making a certain type of video for a while and then suddenly you stop, well, people are, they have the means to message you on Twitter, message you on Discord, join your server, like talk about stuff and just say like, hey man, what's going on? Like your content's kind of changed recently. Well, let's talk about that. So about 2 months ago, actually this time, I was able to apply for monetization on my channel. And for the first time in ever, I was able to make money on YouTube, which is pretty surreal. It was a huge, massive milestone for me. Being able to finally make money on YouTube meant that, like, this sort of a pipe dream I had had of like being a YouTuber full time was like that little tiny bit closer than it was previously. I was actually able to sort of sit here and say like, you know what? It's a start. It's a start. And I talked about this with a lot of people. I told a bunch of friends about it because I was really excited, right? I was really excited that I got monetization on my channel. I also told a couple of my family members about it because they were asking me what I was doing with all that time I was spending. And because I found out that I was making money, I kind of got news randomly dropped on me that I didn't have any knowledge about. Um, so I'll put this in a way that doesn't like completely, sort of. I don't know how else to say this, but I want to put this in like a nice way, right? Not like a shitty way. Um, for the past year, my family apparently has been racking up insane amounts of credit card debt. Um, if you don't know like credit and debit, credit is essentially money you can spend and then you pay back the money that you owe at the end of every like billing period, which is typically like a month. I'm probably explaining this in a really horrible way. Like some kind of business major out there is gonna like explain it better than me, but it's pretty simple to understand, right? You basically say, "Hey, I'm gonna spend this much money and then when I spend that much money, my credit card is gonna like clock out. It's gonna say like your credit card's declined. You need to like pay your money back or put more money in so that way you can get more credit. And this is where that whole thing of credit score comes in, right? Because credit is kind of dependent on your credit card score. My parents have a really good credit card score. My family does too. A lot of my family members are pretty smart business people with their money. So they tend to rack up a lot of good credit, and for a lot of their lives, they were just racking up higher and higher credit scores, meaning that they could put out or pull out more credit to spend on things. And my family kind of has been all over the place. A lot of the jobs in the family have sort of shifted and moved over the years as I've moved a lot over the years. And it's kind of meant that our financial situation goes from we are so back to it is Jover. My family's almost been like in debt multiple times, but we always bounce back. We always bounce back from it somehow, right? But this time, what's different is that rather than some kind of big purchase being the reason that we are in debt, the sort of living situation is that we're just flat out not making enough money to pay what we owe on the things that we have, like our car, like our house, like the place we live, right? And that was a really surreal thing for me to learn because I quite literally had no knowledge of any of this until I had told my family, like, hey, I'm making money from YouTube. Isn't that cool? Like, look at this cool thing I'm doing over here. And then they said, that's awesome. We're in credit card debt. Like, oh, okay, shit. How much debt is it? And I'm not going to be specific because I don't want to give like a genuine, like, flat out number, but it is a really, really fucking big number, right? It is a really big number. And I learned about this about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And that has kind of been all that has been on my mind for the past however long it's been, I guess past 2 months, because learning about that sort of made me realize that, huh, well, if we're in credit card debt, right, and we don't have, enough money, well, I need to be making money for the family. So that way, I can pick up that end and actually be the sort of the helper that I should have been being like a long time ago, right? And that kind of means that I had to make a decision right when my channel was doing like pretty well, and it kind of made me freeze up. I'll be honest, it made me like freeze up because I've never really been the best at making massive decisions. I've never ever been good at it. Partially because I kind of feel like I always, not that I like regret every decision I've ever made in my entire life, but I sort of kind of go back and forth on decisions that I think are good and I think are right. And the reason is usually because, well, I'm sort of sitting there and I'm like, well, in the moment, I think this is a good decision. And then later I regret it and I'm like, well, I feel so fucking stupid because I should have obviously known better. If I had thought about like the bigger picture more, I should have realized that this was actually a dumb decision. But obviously hindsight is 2020, right? I'll give an example, right? I'll give a story. In 2018, my grandparents had invited me, completely out of the blue, to go on a trip to New York. They had just kind of invited me, like I said, completely out of the blue, on a whim, and it was supposed to be like a sort of present for me. It was supposed to be a sort of nice thing where it's like a, hey, we've heard that you said, like, in passing at some kind of dinner or something I'd said on offhandedly. They were like, oh yeah, everyone in the family's been to New York, which is mostly true, except for me and, like one other person. To which we both said, like, yeah, well, not everyone, because obviously me and this other person are here. Like, not everyone has been to fucking New York. And my grandparents have been to New York a lot of times. They've talked about their travels a fuck ton. They've said like everything they can, right? And in regards to like going to New York, my family members and my grandparents specifically thought it would be a really nice gesture to just sort of say, hey, why don't we just take you to New York? Like, we are the kind of New York people of the family. We've been there hundreds and hundreds of times over our entire lives. Like, we've been there so many times that the people who work at the establishments there, they know us even though we don't live there. Like, you should just come to New York with us. And they had mentioned this once. And then about 3 months later, an entire trip was planned, an entire everything was set in motion, and they hadn't told me about it. They bought tickets, and then they kind of surprised me. They're like, hey, FP, we're going to New York. And this is kind of unfortunate because it overlaps with another thing that happened. 2018 was a very, very, very shitty year for me for a lot of reasons. I'm not going to get into this story, but something really horrible happened to me in 2018 right before they had told me about these tickets. And I hadn't really told anyone about that whole situation. So no one knew how, like, that I was going through it, right? I wasn't very vocal about how I felt about things. I didn't do them any favors by being sort of. I was, I was emotionally like very distant with pretty much everyone. So no one knew how bad it actually was for me then, uh, because I didn't make any effort to fill anyone in. So I don't blame my grandparents for like inviting me. They couldn't have known, which was kind of what I wanted. Unfortunately, when they invited me out of the blue, I got really paranoid about it, and I just said like, no, I'm not going on this trip. Like, I know that you planned this whole thing for me, but you didn't tell me about it, and then you just like drop it on me like, no, I'm not gonna go. And they said okay, and I didn't end up going to New York. To this day, I've still never been to New York. Technically, I went to the airport once, but that's like the extent of it. Never been to New York past that. And as you know, at that time when I made that decision, I kind of had a thought in the back of my head like, my grandparents are getting up there. They're getting pretty old. And I don't know if there's going to be another New York trip. Or if there's going to be a fucking global pandemic out of nowhere. 2020 happened, and obviously the world shut down. It, ironically, or not ironically, but like understandably, New York was very hard hit by the pandemic, which even if there was going to be some kind of New York trip, it would not be not happening for a while. And over the course of 2020, 2021, and 2022, my grandfather and grandmother became very ill in their own ways. My grandfather has a bunch of bad joints, a bunch of bad bones. He doesn't walk anywhere without a cane now, which he didn't used to. And my grandmother became very ill and ended up passing away like a year ago. And that means that the New York trip that they had been talking about this whole time, it's never happening. It's never happening, right? Because I didn't go for it. I didn't say sure. And part of me sits here and says, like, well, I was feeling like shit, right? Like, I was feeling like shit. So how can I be upset at myself for not pursuing this when I was feeling like shit, right? But then the other side of me says, like, well, you knew that there wouldn't be a next time. And that changes things. Because if you're blowing off something that you know is going to happen again, well, yeah, it's going to happen again. You can just go next week. You can just go next month, next year, whenever the next thing of that nature is. But when you know that it's kind of like this and then it's done, well, when you say no, like you had to have known that, yeah, there's not going to be a next trip. There's not going to be a next time. And unfortunately, there wasn't, right? Even if there's a New York trip now, it's going to be with just my grandpa, and he's been very lonely and very sad since, his wife of like 50 plus years passed away, right? And understandably, he doesn't really want to do much. So I don't want to put him in that situation, right? It also feel kind of shitty because I would have denied the trip and then be like years later, hey, you want to go on the same exact trip again? Yeah, I don't know. But in terms of that experience has always like stuck with me as like a big moment because it was a decision that I made that inadvertently kind of shut the door on the potential of that ever happening again because that choice is no longer available, right? The people who asked that question aren't here anymore, so it's kind of like that ship has sailed, right? I don't know how many more metaphors I can squeeze together to convey that. I probably should just stop. So, in this instance, when I was thinking about my YouTube channel and the Forced Positivity channel and the sort of overall situation I have here, I was thinking a lot about, well, let me get like two pieces of paper out, right? Let me write pros on one and cons on the other. Or what I like to do instead is the what do I gain from this decision and what do I lose if I don't make this decision? Or the actual realities like best outcome, worst outcome. I like that more than the pros and cons. I don't know why. I couldn't really explain it. But in terms of the actual pieces of paper that I wrote down, one thing kind of kept coming up, and it was the fact that if I didn't make this decision, if I didn't give it a chance, and this decision being YouTube, right, and the opportunity that I have afforded to me, even though I've kind of squandered it a bit by sort of making a lot of gaming videos at a time where my audience was not very inclined to gaming. I don't give a shit about that, right? You can always rebuild for the future, right? But even though I kind of like, fucked things up a bit, I still have this opportunity. I still have this chance to, you know, make this channel my job because YouTube is my passion. YouTube is what I wholeheartedly would love to do as a career. And if I want to be here to do YouTube as a career in the future, I got to start chipping in the now, right? Like, an opportunity is not going to fall out of the sky and land in my lap and then perfectly be exactly up to everything that I want. I'm going to have to compromise somewhere, right? And if the compromise is making the sort of jump of having one foot in the pool and one foot out of the pool and just kind of saying fuck it, let's go in. Let's all in this situation now when it's not necessarily as stable because I have talked to a couple of people, specifically a couple of people who have sort of made this decision already. A couple of people who, because one of the nice things about sort of having the channel get bigger is that there's like been a lot of people who have been reaching out to me who are more like established creators. People have been doing this longer than me, a lot longer than me, and especially full time. And a lot of these people, when I talked to them, some of them said that they made the jump when maybe it wasn't like the best time for them to. They just kind of made the jump because they had to. Something pushed them along, and they said, well, it's either I, chip in the normal 9 to 5 grind, or I give this a shot and see how it goes. And if it doesn't go well, I can always just go get a normal job, right? And I sat there and I kind of heard the all these people saying these things, and I thought to myself like, yeah, I could always just get a normal job later. I don't know if I would have this opportunity again with YouTube now. So, I guess the very roundabout way that I've gone about explaining it is that for the past 2 months, I've kind of just been mulling this decision of like, should I really take YouTube full time? Is that really like the best decision for me to make? And over time, it just kind of feels like probably yeah. Like, I mean, what is there to lose at this point? I mean, at the end of the day, I, again, would feel worse if I didn't just try. And so I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try it. Now don't expect anything major anytime soon. This video is kind of like a knee-jerk reaction of me like finally coming to a full consensus and saying, yeah, this would probably be the thing that I enjoy doing most. But obviously I'm not there yet, right? I'm not entirely at that moment. You know, I'm not what's the word? I'm not we're not all steam ahead yet. I'm kind of in this weird sort of place where, well, I've made the decision. Uh, what now? Like, what's next? What do I do? And that's the part I'm still trying to figure out right now. But hey, you know, gets a little easier. I will say that having finally like made the decision that I'm gonna try taking YouTube full time, it is funny because you know I've been thinking about the fact that like you see a lot of stories of like people who have success stories, and obviously you're only gonna ever hear the success stories from YouTubers because if a YouTuber makes it, you're much more likely to hear about them, right? You're far more likely to hear about someone who has sort of like completely done everything they can to make this thing work and then it ends up working than you are to hear it from someone who's like I don't know, like who it didn't work out for, right? Um, and it's just a very very simple reasoning for that is just because well, like I mean, you know, if it didn't work out for them, you probably don't know who they are, right? Like I feel like that's pretty straightforward, right? But in terms of a lot of like YouTuber stories, there was one guy who I watched who was a much smaller channel, and he very recently made a video where he's like, "Hey guys, I made the gambit to full send it on YouTube and it didn't work. My videos are they're doing dog shit. So I'm pivoting my plans again." And I saw that video right around the time I was having to make my decision. I'm like, "Fuck, man, god damn it! Like YouTube is recommending me videos of people who made the same decision that I'm making, except they went for it and it didn't work out for them." And the thing is like this guy puts a lot of effort and time into his videos. This guy tries really hard, and this guy fucking, you know, it just didn't work out for him, right? And you could point to a lot of things. It's like, oh, well, maybe you didn't have good enough thumbnails. Maybe you just didn't pick good enough topics. Maybe you didn't do X, Y, or Z. Maybe the algorithm was just fucking you. Maybe there's like a shadow ban on your YouTube channel. Like, YouTube will always and permanently be this kind of big question mark where you never actually know if what you're doing is really good or if you're just getting lucky. And I fear that sometimes I've just gotten lucky. And I kind of am just sitting here saying, no. And the reason that I think maybe no now is because, you know, I have my Discord server and I've talked to a lot of people in my community about things. And this decision was a lot easier to make when I started talking to a bunch of those people. And they said things like, yeah, like, you know, I'd watch your content even if you were talking about, like, paint dry or, you know, watching grass grow. You're just entertaining. I like watching you. And so I know that if I'm not going to appeal to, like, hundreds of thousands of people, like I maybe once did, I don't give a shit about that. As long as I've got, like, you know, 5 people who give a shit about the stuff that I do, uh, I'll probably keep making videos. I mean, this whole channel started with me having like 0 subscribers, just making videos for myself, playing Apex, being really stupid and goofy, and just having a fun time. And I do earnestly love that. And if I can entertain myself, well, I'm probably going to be able to entertain other people along the way too. Maybe, maybe. So hopefully, I guess I should stop saying maybe and start saying hopefully because I guess I do technically need this to work out, kind of. Oh yeah, that's right. I do need to make a fuck ton of money. Oh my god. Yeah, it's also weird because I've always been really like, I don't really like the whole concept of like sponsors and sponsorship deals and stuff like that. But I guess fucking, oh my god, gonna have to start maybe looking into some of those things. Oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, if you know any people who have some products that maybe they need to promote, and they're willing to pay a little bit of money for it. I don't know, maybe my door's open. Might not be though. Might not be though. I don't know. Oh, jeez, man. There's so many things I still need to do. But hey, you take things one step at a time. Tomorrow's a new day. Tomorrow's a new day. Damn right. But it is kind of interesting though, because this past like month has been really eye-opening to me, especially because like the fact that like some people were still watching the gameplay highlight videos still, because I know that like most of my audience drifts over from like they want to hear me talk about things that are like specifically maybe Hell of a Boss, but broader notes like cartoons and stuff, right? They want to hear me talk about like shows and media, and I totally understand that. Um, but it's also like, fuck, if I'm talking about all this shit, it's like I need to fucking talk about things that I really know about, and some of those things are a lot easier to talk about than others. Yeah, that's for sure. I just realized I can do a really, really smart maneuver here. Look at this, I just put a Juggernaut emblem on my Taric. That's awesome. You don't know how good that is if you don't play this. But what is also really crazy to me in terms of like what's recently happened is the fact that like out of all of the stuff that's gone on, people in my Discord server have kept themselves entertained even in my absence, and that blew my mind. I thought that shit was gonna die if I wasn't like talking in there every day. So to anyone who's still watching this and is in my Discord server, uh, major shout outs to you for actually like you know bunkering down the fort, keeping it keeping it alive even when I'm not there. That was really surprising when I came back from like a pseudo hiatus, and you know the people in there is just still fucking talking to each other. Some of them for funnier reasons than others. We'll keep it between us. Maybe some of the people don't have anything better to do, which I guess is fair. But it was really humbling to just see. I'm still blown away at how many people have like. This is getting really rambly at this point. I do apologize, but it does blow my mind just how many people in everything have just sort of you know showed up and been like, yeah, I like your content. I like what you do, and maybe if you take a little bit of time to figure out what you want to do, I'll still be here when you get back. Hearing all the people like say that really made me feel like it was a lot easier to make the decision, because it's like if people want to see me make videos, I kind of want to make videos too. I guess that's the moral of the story. It's not even for other people. I just like making videos. Genuinely just like making videos. That's an Aatrox with a Noxus emblem? And he's right next to me, baby. That's crazy. You don't know how crazy that is. Again, that's really crazy. Sorry, I'm focusing on the game a little bit more because I didn't think I'd get this far. Shh, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone that I'm actually gaming. But, yeah, it's been really fun. It's been really, really fun. And I think that a lot of people also are sort of more. What's the word? They're more so, willing to sort of see these kinds of things through, especially when like the person actually says like, "Yeah, I'm right or die. I'm right or die." Right? um. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about all of it. But it is interesting. It is very interesting. Put that on you. Because I do think though that at the end of the day, that regardless of everything, I'd feel really regretful if I didn't take this opportunity and like try to do something with it, and just kind of like sat here and said like I'm not gonna do anything with this. I'm gonna let this YouTube channel just rot into the ground. It's like no, I should probably fucking try, see where it goes. That's probably a good idea, which it is. It's a very good idea. Just took me a while to figure it out. Unfortunately. But I don't know. I will say that I do think that I don't know how far my channel is gonna go. I don't know, like, if it is going to work out, if it isn't. I have no idea. It might be that, like, in a week I'm making a video where it's like, hey guys, gamble didn't pay out. It did not work. This whole situation, I'm going to get a real job. I'm not uploading daily anymore. Bye bye. I need money now. See ya. Um, and if it doesn't end up working, it sucks, but at least I tried, right? At least I gave it a shot. At least I tried, which I think is the more important thing to me that I realized is that it doesn't matter if it does or doesn't work out. It doesn't matter if I become like a success story into a failure story. Whatever, you fell off, blah, blah, blah. All that silliness. What matters more is just the fact that it's like, I know that I gave it an effort and gave it an attempt. Because I think that at the end of the day, regardless of a lot of things, I think that a lot of people sort of kind of I think a lot of people underestimate themselves and like what they can do because I don't think a lot of people like put their everything into something, if that makes sense. A lot of people will sometimes just kind of sit there and like say that they're doing everything they can to facilitate something succeeding, but in reality it's like, no, you're not. Like you could be doing a hell of a lot more. And it's hard sometimes to like look inward and be like, oh damn, you're totally fucking right, because a lot of the times it's like, well, if you're gonna try to sort of do that, you kind of need to, be aware in a way of like the fact that it's like there is something to like improve upon there, right? A lot of people are kind of content to just sit there and be like, well, I gave it my best shot. And it's like, did you really? Did you really give it your best shot? And most of the times the answer, sadly, is no, but like the person can't like reflect inward enough to like understand that. It's kind of weird that a lot of my as much more of my focus has been put onto like my YouTube channel. A lot of my dreams and stuff have been like more focused on that too, which is like a weird thing to say. I know, just randomly, but it's like I was having a dream the other night where it's like fucking. I was just sitting there somewhere and I was like, I need to pay for something and I just didn't have enough money. And it was like, is this like a weird dream about like the potential future if I don't make money? Oh my god, that's crazy. Uh, it sounds stupid now saying out loud because it kind of is stupid, but like that is just something that like has been on my mind, right? Because I have to make sure that in some way this does work out on some level, right? As difficult as it is, right? As difficult as it is. And hey, again, maybe it doesn't work out. But if it doesn't, at least I tried. I guess the rest of this video is just me gaming now, because there's not really much else to talk about. I think my mistake in my positioning is the fact that I'm not putting my Warwick on the right side of my board with my Aatrox, so they both focus fire the same person. I think that'd probably be a good decision. Probably end up gonna cost me here. Unless I somehow end up beating this guy. Oh. Well, look at that. Cool. Sell you, buy you, sell you. Okay, before I forget, put him on the same side here. And then let's put this guy in the center here. There we go. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Two more Terriks. Not a single one. Okay. Let's do this. There we go. Wait, I'm never gonna 2-star that. I'm never gonna put you in. And I'm never gonna do level 9. Yeah. But I don't know. I kind of wanted to just make like a big unedited commentary video. Just like me gameplay talking about it. Because I said like playing a game in the background like helps me talk. I don't know why I couldn't explain it. Just does, I think it's because I'm focusing about like the game. I'm not really like thinking about like every single word I'm saying, which I think is like a good thing because it's like I think I tend to over scrutinize what I'm trying to say to try to like sound more smart than actually like just saying what I want to say. Or hey, maybe I'm still stupid. Who knows? Who knows? Put this on you. Reroll. 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 Well, I am not getting that. I'm not getting that, Oh, I lost. Damn it. Oh, and he Zephyr'd my Aatrox. That might actually be good. Maybe. The problem is that he has a massive Teemo, which just AoE anti-heals my entire team. Yeah, so. And his, Callista isn't very good either. Boop. So yeah, that's that. Oh, I got second. That's nice.